All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott from Jeff Teaches Programming. In the last video, or last series of videos, as you can see here, I've been converting the BMI GUI database app, which was written originally to use ADO or ActiveX Data Objects.net, where we had to write a lot of the SQL ourselves, and we were going to rewrite it as an entity framework entity. And I am still going to do that, but I decided to take a little bit of a detour, for lack of better words, because I want to talk about something that is going to be used in a lot of database programs, and that's a database grid view control. And that database grid view control is designed to display data from an SQL database. Now, there's a lot of resources out there. I found this one, which I thought was pretty good. In fact, let me show you both these that I found. DataGridView in Windows Forms, a complete guide, and there's the URL, and C DataGridView tutorial, and that's the URL. Now, with all that said, there are a lot of other resources. I watched quite a few videos, and to be honest with you, I thought most of them kind of stunk. All right? But that said, let's just take a look at some of this. As it says, the DataGridView control in Windows Forms is an essential component for presenting and editing data in tabular or table form. This guide covers all aspects of the DataGridView. I'm not going to say any more than it says. But notice what it is. There's an intro. They tell you how to set it up, how to do what's called data binding, how you can customize it, how to handle events, basically anything from a click to changing data or whatever, sorting and filtering, editing and validating what's in cells, adding custom columns and controls, etc. All right. Now you can set this up. You can drag and drop it onto a form, which is what I'm going to do momentarily, or you can create it programmatically like this. This would create the new DataGridView form that's called DataGridView. This would tell it to fill up the entire form. All right? And this would basically add it. All right? Now, as it says, you can do this in two different modes. You can bind it to data sources, for example, like a data table or a list, or you can manually populate the data. As it says, it's more useful for smaller or customized data sets. You can customize the data view. You can do things like tell it what kind of column you're using. Is it a text box? Is it a checkbox? Is it a combo box? You can also style grids. In fact, one of the most popular ways to style grids is to basically have every other row be a different color, or highlighted in a different color. As mentioned, you can handle events. This can react to cell clicks, edits, mouse movements, all sorts of stuff. How's that? And they give some examples in here. I'm not going to go through these. Again, you can sort and filter with this. You can do some editing and validating in here. You can add your own custom columns and controls. So for instance, when you think about it, if we wanted to add more custom columns or custom controls, we could do that. And again, you can do this, you typically will do this programmatically. So you'll use a rows.add when you want to add a new row, a rows.remove at when you want to delete a row, a rows.clear if you want to remove all rows, etc. All right? And that's what they have in here. And again, I thought it was pretty well done, and it's fairly small, fairly short. The other one that's in here, and I actually wanted to look at this article that was in here, so I'm just going to do that. So the other one that's in here is called C DataGridView tutorial. As it says, it provides a detailed guidance on utilizing the DataGridView control everything involved in it. All right. So these are all hyperlinked. They tell you how to use it with an SQL database, SQL server, which is what we'd want. I don't care for right now about the OLEDB. That's object linking and embedding. All right. And you could go over this and you could go over that. So if we look in here, all right, they show you some code and it's pretty short, as you can see. All right, but these are the kind of things that we're going to have to do. What I have decided to do, again, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, is I've decided I'm going to close this. So let me do a file, save all. All right, I've got my one that I'm working on in here, which is my BMI EF Core 01. And I'm going to close this. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a new folder in here. I think we have it in here, right? Test, BMI etc. I don't think that is it. So where did we put it? EF Core, there it is. All right, so inside of EF Core, where we now have Entity Framework projects, and we've got this, I'm going to create a new project. I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit simpler. You may not think so when you see it, but we'll see. All right, so what I'm going to do here, sure I'm still taping, and I am. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start back up my Visual Studio. That's interesting. All right. I haven't used it in a while, I guess. There it is, I think. 2026. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up this Entity Frameworks. I'll just do it right in here. All right. And what I want to do is I want to go in and create a new project. Okay. So I'm going to come in here, close all that, close that. There we go. Go to my solution, and I'm going to add a new project. It will be, as we start off here, all right, let's think about what we need. All right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to build it in here, not build it with code, but just show you what I'm talking about. All right, and what I want to do is I want to make, for lack of better words, I'm going to have a person, a person class. And each person will have a first name. They'll have a last name. They'll have an address. They'll have a city, a state, and a zip code. All right, so we're going to have that. Now think about what we need for this. All right, so we've got this, we're going to create this thing. Let's just call it, I don't know, person app. Okay, so we'll have a person app. And what's it going to have in it? All right. So first of all, and we've already talked about this, it'll need to have an app.config file. All right. And secondly, it'll need to have basically the program file that automatically gets created. All right. So we're going to have that. Next, what will we need? Well, I'm going to try to start writing this the way that it probably should have been written from the beginning. And what I mean is, I'm going to break this down, and I'm going to have 3 folders in here. I'm going to have a folder called Models, which is going to hold this person class that we see right here. So let's do this. We'll go here, and we'll put in here Models. All right. And then, whoops, what we're going to have in here then is going to be exactly what we just talked about. So in other words, we're going to have in here, we'll put it up here. Whoops. Yeah, that's good. We'll have this person class. So okay, and this person class will have in it all the stuff we just mentioned. Now I'm showing you everything that's in here, for lack of better words, right now, just so you've got an idea of what's going to be in this person class. It's not that different from our BMI program that we've been working with. All right, so we've got this. Let's put this on a new line. There. All right, now we're also going to have underneath here not just a models class, but we're going to have what's typically referred to as a data class. In fact, let's put it like this. All right, and in that data class, we're going to have a person repository, which won't be all that different from what we're currently doing. All right, so far, underneath, our main program, we're going to have these two things. Then we're going to have a folder that's going to be called models with a person class in it that's going to have this stuff. Then we're going to have another folder called data that's going to have this stuff. And then, and I don't usually do it like this, but it kind of made more sense to me when I was thinking about it. Believe me, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. And that is, I'm going to have one more in here, and we're going to call this forms. All right. And underneath forms, we're going to have several forms. So we'll have FRM startup.cs. We'll have FRM add person.cs. FRM view all persons.cs. We'll have FRM update person.cs. And we'll have FRM delete person.cs. So what these represent right here, okay, and I put them in this order because it's CRUD. Instead of add person, maybe it'd be better to call this create person. And instead of view all persons, why don't we call this read all persons? Now you see the true CRUD, C-R-U-D. So this is what we're going to have in here. I'm going to try to set it up just like this. Now I can make it a lot smaller so you can see everything on here. All right, so again, we'll have this person app with an app config and our regular program file. We'll create a models folder, and it'll have just this person class. So this will be person, I don't know, I guess person.cs. Oops. Which, as I mentioned, will be our person class. All right, and it'll have these components. Now, we usually do it this way when we set it up. You've seen this already in the files, but that'd be a capital, and so would all of these. Now, maybe I made this too simplistic, because when you think about it, everything that's in here, all these fields are going to be strings. Now you can say, what about zip code? They're numbers. No, we don't want. The only time you should make a field numeric is when it could conceivably be used in calculations or when it holds true numbers. If your zip code is 12345, that's how you'd say it. You don't say it's 12,345. All right. Again, we'll also have this person repository .cs file. And you'll see what we're going to put in there in just a bit. Okay? So then we'll have our 4 forms. So this is it. This is what I plan on creating. Now, whoops. We can start doing that, but let's see. We're at 15 minutes. That's okay. So let's start that right now. So what we'll do first is we will come in and let's create a Windows Forms app. All right, next. And we're going to call this, as we said, what did we say we would call this? Person app. You can see it's automatically been placed inside of our entity framework projects. All right. We want .NET 8 long-term support. And okay, so there's already our first form. And we will change the name of that to FRM Startup. Thought we could rename it from here, but I think it just wants us to do it. So again, this will be FRM Startup. Okay. So now it's been renamed. FRM Startup, everything. So we've got that done, right? All right. So when you look at this right now, we've also got our program.cs file, and we do not yet have an app.config file. So when you look at this, right now, we've got this, because we got it automatically. All right, so we've got that. And we've got this, even though there's really nothing in it yet. But we got a couple things. Let's come in and let's create the rest of what we need for this project. And we'll stop it there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a Windows form. And this will be FRM. I'm going to use the same names I showed you here. FRM create person.cs. So there's our second form. Let's add a third one. And this one will be FRM read all persons.cs. Let's add a fourth one. And this one will be FRM update person.cs. And let's start closing all this stuff that's in here. Let's add one more. And that last one was FRM delete person.cs. All right. So now, as you can see, we've got the 5 forms. Don't worry about the sizing, the color. Don't worry about a darn thing. I'm just setting the project up. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add. And I'm going to add a new folder. I'm going to call it models. All right. Then in our models folder, I'm going to add a class. It's going to be called person.cs. It's going to be public. All right. And what do we have left? So we've come in here. We haven't put this stuff in yet, but we've got our model and our person.cs. We've got our forms. We've got our program.cs. Let's add data and person repository, then app.config, and that'll put this part of it to rest, so to speak. So let's come in and add another folder. All right, so the first one was models. The second one will be data. All right, and we're going to add a new class under data. And what did we say we were going to call that? Person repository.cs. And again, we're going to want this to be public. All right. And then let me do a file save all on everything. And let me just close everything that I've got open right now. All right. So right now, as far as I know, let's close all these. All right. So we've got in our person app, we've got in here a data folder with person repository.cs, a models folder with person.cs, and I was going to put a forms folder in here. I guess I forgot to. So let's do that. Let's add another folder that we're going to call forms. And I believe I can take all of these and I can cut them and I can paste them back in here. Yes. All right. So now I do have everything set up with the exception of one thing. And that is I want to come in here and I want to, that's my project file. So in person app, let's close that. Let's go in and add. We want to add an app.config file. And I don't remember, of course, unfortunately, how I did that before. So we're going to look. I thought that was in here. No items found. How about config? Application configuration file, which will be called app.config. There it is. So there's not much in there. But the point is, when you look here, all right, I'm going to do this. I do this a lot when I'm working. All right, if I look at that there, and I bring this in, and I'm going to move this and cut it so it's about in half. There. Hopefully what you see is now it's set up. There's person app. All right. And in person app, I've got app.config, which looks like it was put in the models folder. So we're going to have to make sure that's moved. All right. And we've got program.cs, which is right here. We've got a models folder with person.cs in it. We've got a data folder with person repository.cs in it. And we've got a forms folder with frm-startup.cs, frm-create-person.cs, frm-read-all-persons.cs, frm-update-person.cs, and frm-delete-person.cs. So I think we've got everything set up. Again, could I be wrong? Sure. But I think we've got everything set up in here. Now, I do want to take this app.config file, and I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to paste it. Cannot move it. The destination is the same. So it's telling me that's already where it is. So let's close forms. So it already is in there. Notice models. There's app.config and program.cs. All right. So I now have set this up the way that I want to have it set up. All right. So what I'm going to do is in the next video, I'm just going to continue on from here. All right. Okay. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.